is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And today's episode is a special study with me live episode. Um, and this is an episode about the type of decisions that the United Nations, um, mainly Security Council, decides on unanimously. And I'm going to look into what type of decisions do all nations or representative of nations supposedly agree on in the Security Council. So it's obviously a very political episode. If that deters you, this is the time to stop watching because this is what this episode is going to be about. And I'm going to also take a look at the astrology of when did those unanimous decisions were decided and how the skies looked. Okay? Now, as I'm doing with all of my episodes, whether you're watching it because you like my Do It by Feet series or my paint about astrology or my astrology videos or other content that I post, is I tend to um, take a look at when am I beginning to air this, what is going on in the skies. That gives me a sort of connection to why am I doing this to begin with, why now, and unlike the type of electional astrology where you elect something, you look at the skies and then you do something. I'm looking at, I'm doing something and then looking at what's in the sky. Why do I feel like doing that right now and what is going to be the outcome? So it's a Jupiter hour of the day. It's a Mercury day. The ascendant is in 27 degrees Mercury. Mercury itself is in Taurus, which is my third house, ruling natally my fourth and eighth. So eighth house is also political house because it's the joint energies with partners. And Jupiter is in Aries, 20-degree Aries. I see that this been picked or being tried by the lot of fortune. I don't know if that has a mundane meaning in the world, but that is the situation. So Mercury Day, Mercury rules trade, Mercury rules juristics, so international law, if it's on a mundane level, trade, economy. Mercury in Taurus can rule lands, and it's Venus ruled. Venus, the ruler of Mercury right now, is applying to Algol. The moon is in 5 degrees Libra, only 10 degrees from its position where it's going to be a full moon in Libra, opposing Chiron and the Sun, and to some extent opposing, applying to oppose Jupiter. That would be the full moon. Jupiter hour, that tells me there is an optimistic spirit about this episode, that it's going to be um, expansive, optimistic, with Jupiter in Aries, maybe a new idea, innovative idea, new type of episodes, I don't know. But this is a study with me live. Now this is the chart. And for those of you who are not in this for the astrology, then this is where we go. And the first UN decision that I made by making a simple Google search, and I'm going to show you the search that I made, is just simple unanimous agreements in the UN. Okay, and that was the and I went. So we have voting system, United Nations Security Council. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is the voting system. You can read it. Basically, the Security Council has 5 countries that are called the P5 that have the right to veto a decision. Okay, they can abstain and can veto a decision. That's the P5. The P5s are the supposed winners of the Second World War. So that would mean China, France, the United Soviet Socialist, like what? USSR, that is now Russia, and United Kingdom and United States. Okay, so China, France, now Russia, United Kingdom, and United States have the right to veto a decision, basically meaning that the decision will not pass even if the entire Security Council, which consists of, well, it's not a General Assembly, but it does have the representatives of the nations that are members in the United Nations. So this is a bit about the structure. And the Security Council decisions that are passed unanimously um, are the ones that the P5 did not veto. That tells us what is the common consensus, political consensus that we have right now, and what's the history of it. So, Security Council. The first decision is from gov.uk that I found, and this is a press release. It says UN Security Council ceasefires resolution passed unanimously, Foreign Secretary statement. And this was published in 26th February 2021. Okay, so this is the first decision that I found that was passed unanimously. That means without um, uh, any veto and without anybody voting against the decision. Okay. So you might have to check me on this, but that's the closest to one voice agreement. So the decision. We are proud to lead in securing the swift and unanimous agreements of today's UN Security Council ceasefires. This is not one ceasefire, but multiple, which will help, and this is why they made this, get vaccines to people living in conflict zones. Okay, so the first decision that we have from 26th February 2021 that we found, okay, it's not a chronological order, is a decision to cease fire. Decisions about arms or Security Council decisions is the only committee that can instruct entry of armed forces into a territory of another land. Okay, usually they don't have the right to do so, only the Security Council. So the reason was to get vaccinations to people living in conflict zones. The resolution also built support for COVAX, through which the UK is providing over a billion vaccines doses for the most vulnerable people around the world. You can, like, with the controversy around the quality of these vaccines, you can read it in many ways, because we need a global solution to a global pandemic. So that's the article. And like I said, it's from gov.uk press release. So it's a governmental press release. And from this coming from the UK, 26 February 2021. And this is where we go to the astrology part. A chart of, wait, 26 February and 2021, and we're going to do it astrological. Yes, chart of the day, and this is from astrosig.com, and they have a great website. um, let's take a look at February 26th. So the moon Virgo, interesting. This is where all the, now immediately when I look at this chart, what pops to my mind is that all but the moon are inside in the eastern side of the hemisphere. This means that all the planet conjoin to one side. And just looking at it, when you think about a unanimous decision, it's not surprising that they see um, all parts, all cosmic planets, the main planets, kind of concentrated on one side. And here there's the moon, and the moon is on Regulus. Okay, 0 degree Virgo is Regulus asteroid. Regulus has to do with leaders and has to do with kings, queens, people of royalty. Okay, it's the royal star basically. So the moon on Regulus tells us that what's manifested here is leaders. Okay, something with leaders, and all the planets are in one side of the hemisphere, the eastern side of the hemisphere. So the moon here is full moon. It's a full moon in Virgo because it starts here in Regulus, but the moon will move, and the sun here is only 8 degrees Pisces. So within this time frame of February 2026, we had a press release of that decision. We had a full moon in Virgo after the moon crossing Regulus. So I don't know if the decision was made when the moon was on Regulus, if the publication was when the moon was full, okay, within the moon that is full. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so this would be a Mercury ruled full moon that can denote a press release of something. In that case, a unanimous decision. Mercury was in Aquarius here. That's the ruler of this upcoming full moon. A sun in Pisces. I don't see anything here that necessarily denotes medical aid. The Mars was around Algol at this time of the decision. So Mars in Taurus is in its detriment. Um, and uh, Rahu was in Gemini. So this is how the chart looks like. So immediately what pops up is all the planets, outer planets and personal planets are being in one side of the hemisphere. Now, if we can play with this chart a bit, here we're going to see that the moon will be trining. Okay, when the moon will be full here in 8 degrees Virgo, it will be opposing the sun, it will be trining Uranus. Um, so there's something unexpected perhaps. And what else? It will be in conjuncting Chiron, and it will be in conjuncting Saturn. So that is very interesting. With Mars on Algol, Mars is the planet of war, and here we have a decision about not one ceasefire, but global ceasefires to get supposed medical aid to the most vulnerable people in conflict zones. So penetrating conflict zones. Um, okay, this is just one piece of data. Let's see if we can continue on and see, do we even have uh, multilateral treaties disposited with the Secretary General? Maybe. Um, how decisions are made. I'm looking for. Okay, this is the same decision, right? Maintenance of international peace is 2565. Let me take a look at the previous one. It was also 2565. I want to have a list of these decisions. And I have a lot of websites here. Agrees establishing the Commonwealth of Independent States. Okay, this is 1991. Let's see. Is that unanimous? Venice Commission. I'm gonna download this one. Um, if you're watching this and you're doing Model UN or doing, Model UN competitions in your school, then yeah, that's a great way to get ready. To have something, what 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 can you expect in the real world? European Commissions for Democracy through Law, agreements establishing the Commonwealth of Independent States. This was done at Minsk, December 8, 1991, and Alma Ata, December 21, 1991. So we have two dates here around December. And this is Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, um, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Russian Federation, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, agreements establishing the Commonwealth of Independent States. It's okay. What the heck does that mean? Let me see. So this is content summary. December 24, 1991, the Secretary General of the United Nations informed the member states that he had received a letter from the permanent representative of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics transmitting a letter from the President of the Russian Federation. The letter stated that the membership of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the United Nations, including the Security Council, and all the other organs and organizations of the United Nations system is being continued by the Russian Federation with the support of the countries of the Commonwealth of Independent States. Okay, so if I get this right, this document basically changes USSR from Russia. Is that the one? As of February 7, 1992, the United Nations Security Council had received the application for admission of the United Nations from Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Applications are referred to the Committee of the Admissions of New Members for examination and report. So these are the new independent countries that are joining the UN. Um, and this shows you basically it's a very important document actually because it shows us what happens, okay, if a big country decides to segment certain parts of it into independent countries, and how do you preserve your status, right, as a P5 country by allowing all these countries into the UN. Yeah, so what happened? The USSR was a member of the P5, the five countries in the entire world, the entire planet Earth, that can veto a decision around armed invasion. Okay, this is the meaning of Security Council decision. Okay, what happens when one of these countries, in this case USSR, changed its identity, okay, became Russia, and the segments that were no longer a part of the USSR, there are all these countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, all of them wanted to join the UN. So here we have um, a document that necessitated, I believe, a unanimous decision. So on the one hand, from USSR and then Russia, they were the P5. So what happens when they change that gap of changing the nation's identity is interesting. So Russia preserved its status as a P5 country, perhaps by allowing independence to these various countries. Now we are astrologically approaching um, uh, eclipse series with Ketu, or the South Node, in Libra, tropical Libra. I want to look at, oh wow, September 17, 1991. So, September 17, 1991, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania were admitted as new members to the United Nations General Assembly. Okay, we are about 12 years after that, and in 2020, 1992. So, my prediction is that this is the series. No, we're not 12 years. 12 years was 20, was the, oh my God. This is a return? No, it's like after Saturn return. I don't know, because the UN is having their Saturn return, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I need to look at charts. So there's a lot here. I'm not gonna go over the entire document. This is the document, Council of Europe, Strasbourg, and this is 8 September 1994, about agreements to do with 1991. Very interesting. Um, so December 8th, 1991 is the first date that I want to look at. And my prediction is we're going to be between eclipses with either Rao or Ketu in Libra. So I'm going to open another window and we're going to look at another chart. And this was December 7, 1991. 1991. Um, astrology, astrological chart. And we can go to December 1991. Um, Sun entered Capricorn on December 22, and December 6th, there was a new moon in Sagittarius. Okay, a day afterward, we had this decision about USSR changing to Russia. And then December  21, so it's the new moon, full moon. This was with, oh, this was again Sagittarius Gemini, but I want to take a look at the chart. I want to see where the nodes were, where the eclipses were as well. The nodes were in Capricorn and Cancer at the time. Okay. And moon here was, oh, this is the new moon with the sun. Yeah. Okay, very interesting. I don't know how to delineate anything here. We can see that um, if we take it, just no, just one day forward, and we do have another situation where all the planets are around the western side of the hemisphere, except for Chiron. So there's this other date, but then at the end of the month it's not going to be the same. And that was, yeah, this was an application to the Security Council, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I don't know what to say about this. I just keep the chart in mind. Um, and I want to, and the eclipses. Let's take a look at the eclipses of 1991. So the eclipses of 2021 were already in the Taurus Scorpio and somewhat in the Sagittarius Gemini axis. Now let's take a look at the eclipses. Eclipses. I want to take a look at the eclipses of 1991. And as we are approaching the eclipses on the Aries Libra axis, so 1991. 1991, we had eclipses on the. Um, okay, this is interesting. very interesting because we had the Leo Aquarius axis, the Capricorn Cancer axis, the Gemini Sagittarius axis, all within 1 year. Look at this. It's very special. Why? Because usually when we have a year, we have no more than two axes of eclipses. So having three axis, I don't know, of eclipses is fascinating. It means that so much in the structure of the mundane world, and this is Capricorn and Aquarius, so much of the structure of the mundane world is changing, which was indeed what happened. Okay. Um, Now we look at December 21. So the decision on the change of USSR, on the breaking apart of USSR, was made in the shade of eclipses. This makes a lot of sense. And those eclipses were in the Gemini and Sagittarius axis. Like I said, I began this episode on a Mercury day in a Jupiter hour. So we're talking about the axes of Gemini and Sagittarius, which are ruled respectively by Mercury and Jupiter. This is how the point of reference, okay, the point where I began to look at this is connected to what pops up. Okay, what pops up is two documents that had to do with Mercury and and here Sagittarius is Jupiter. Um, so and the independence of countries here. It's independence of countries. So becoming a members in this old structure called the UN. Now this is a little bit of a break to take a look at the chart of the United Nations. So United Nations, So United Nations astrology chart, astrological chart of the United Nations. Let's take a look at this website. So we have a little diversification of sources. Aquarian age community. Knowledge of the soul is the promise of the Aquarian age. Energy follows thought. Okay. I wonder what happens if thought follows energy. Um, Transforming planetary consciousness. I'm looking at the United Nations. I don't see anything here, but this is nice website. I don't see anything here. Um, the astro. Oh, this is very interesting. The astrogeographical position of the United Nations headquarters, and this is from Astrogeography blog. This one was written in 2011 by Georg Stockhorst. Um, so that can give us more information. This is, oh, both the UN and the League of Nations. Okay, the League of Nations was before the UN. And the positions of the capital cities from astrocartography perspective. United Nations Birth and Foundation. So this is the chart of the United Nations, I believe. Um, Calculated according to 24 October 1945, again after the Second World War, 1645 in Washington. So in the US, ascendant in Aries and descendant in Libra. So immediately you see that the set of eclipses that we are approaching as of this April, okay, we're going to have a 29-degree eclipse in Aries. This ascendant is in the final decan of Aries. Okay, it looks like it already is in the final decan of Aries. This ascendant is being targeted by the upcoming eclipse on April 20. And look how many planets. Jupiter in Libra. Where is Mercury here? Mercury in Scorpio. So the notes are still going to be in Scorpio. Um, the sun is in Scorpio, but we have Jupiter with Chiron, and I believe this is the symbol of Neptune. Neptune and Venus, right? Where's Uranus? No, this is not Neptune. Oh, they didn't draw the outer planets. So they didn't draw the outer planets, only personal planets. Okay. Mm. And let's enlarge this a bit. We see Juno, and I see something with Q, and I don't know what it is, so if you know, that will help me. I think Pallas is here with Mercury. Um, who is this? I don't know. Nessus probably here. Sedna? No, it cannot be Sedna. Sedna was in Taurus for a millennia. So, I don't know. But this is an important chart because right now we are having another set of eclipses, and this happens every 9 years, okay? So it's not something that is like the United Nations is going to collapse, or no. It just means that there's something about the identity of maybe the member countries, maybe the identity of the organization itself, that can be subjected to change. Okay, this was 1945. We've had eclipses on the axis of Aries and Libra since then. But we definitely see here Jupiter in Libra, Jupiter with Chiron, Jupiter with Venus. I don't know how to delineate these points, so I believe these are the trans-Neptunians that they're painting here. So that that can give us more insight. And the astrocartography of the headquarters. Okay, that is located at the 12th degrees Cancer, which is a degree away from Sirius. The planet Sirius denotes great diversity. Okay, so Sirius is about great diversity. Um, but it's not on Sirius, it's around Sirius. It's 1 degree from. And 13 Leo. So Sun and Moon ruled. Okay, this is New York. Sun and Moon ruled location. This obviously tells me that anything to do with both lunations and eclipses is going to play major significance for the structure, or the physical structure, or the headquarters, or the people in the headquarters, or perhaps the entity that is in there, that is the United Nations. Um, and indeed, we are in the shade of eclipse. And this is the office in Geneva, Palace of the Nations, the League of Nations, and then um, and that was in 24 and 22 Cancer, exact oppositions of the Mars-Saturn conjunction, from the foundations of the UN, 36 years later. Okay, so we see the pressure points that are being activated, and as things happen, this is 36 years later, is Saturn maturation. It's immediately what pops up. Okay, so the Saturn maturation of the League of Nations became a transformation of the nations themselves, And around Mars Saturn conjunction, so the structure was changed due to a war, the Second World War. Mars is planet of war, so structural changes due to a war. So this is a Mars Saturn conjunction from the foundation of the UN 36 years later. Okay, so the UN that we know today was basically a structural change due to a war and that happened um, after the League of Nations had their Saturn maturation. Okay, it happens around 35, 36 years of age. Okay, as you finish your Saturn maturation, then that happens. So, and that was in 45. Obviously, we've had Saturn maturation UN since. Um, Kudos to Georg Stockhorst who made this. This is so amazing. Um, Such a detailed work, and I want to invite you to take a deeper look at this document yourself. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. I'm going to take a look at it myself later, so that you can go to this website, astrologicalworldmap.com, and have a peek at what it has to offer. So I'm going to continue on. And I do want to get the chart of the United Nations. So United Nations astrology chart, um, not United States, Ukraine astrology chart, Russia astrology chart, demographic and social statistics. Okay. Um, I'm looking for the astrology chart. Natal chart, perhaps I should have said natal chart, nation natal chart. That would make it easier. When you combine the search words you learn from the model UN and the astrology, then you have weird results. UN astrological article and chart. This is from Astro Team. So that's another great site to source your charts from. Um, we see the ascendant in Aries, like we said. And now I'm looking at the outer planets. Pluto was in Leo. Saturn, Mars were conjuncting in Cancer. And Cancer on a mundane level, it does rule the nation state. My prediction, okay? It does rule the nation state. Again, maybe a million other people are talking about it and I just don't know. It's a study live with me episode, okay? So if the moon rules the people and Cancer is about your people, the family, so the nation as a family and the nation state. Okay, it can be the people in a given country. If I take a look, if this was a chart of a country, then Cancer the moon I would look to as representative of the people. For example, the sun in Cancer in the United States chart, okay, is the sun of a country, okay, of federation, that was constructed with the identity around the Declaration of Independence was we the people. Okay, so Sun in Cancer being the soul, okay, the identity of this entity, this political entity, had to do with the people. In the Declaration of Independence, we see clearly we the people. That's been repeating itself. I don't know. I think if you've seen, but when I covered the Israel political upheaval that we're having today, one of the signs that were seen in demonstrations against changing the structure of the regime to more authoritative and less democratic, a non-democratic structure, was in English, "We the people." Okay, and I took a look at Uranus in the charts of Israel in another episode, which is fascinating, and compared it against Uranus in the chart of the United States. Right now, with Trump being Gemini sun, Trump, that rules his 29th Leo ascendant is being trialed, and maybe he will go to jail, maybe not go to jail. So the similarities between Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel and Donald Trump in the United States, the upheaval, the thought about changing forming a constitution in Israel or changing the constitution in the United States, all these upheavals, then there's another episode dedicated to that. Speaking about Uranus, in this chart of the UN, Uranus was in Gemini, and the moon was separating from a conjunction with Uranus on that day. Uh, Mars, Saturn, so changed new nation states forming as a result of, um, and here with Rahu, so new nation states forming as a result of a war. So structural changes to the nation state as a result of a war, and also to the League of Nations, new nation states, right? That makes sense. Jupiter was in Libra, that we noticed. Neptune was with Venus on the degree, almost on the minute. Almost on the minute. So Neptune, Venus in Libra. Okay, Neptune can be a great sense of ideation of what this body can do, a great sense of union. Venus is international relations. Okay, so ideation of the power. Why do I say power? Because of the sextile to Pluto. So ideation of the power of the connection between new nation states. Okay, that's the story of this chart. Lilith in Libra in the seventh house. I don't know how to delineate that on a mundane level. Um, Midheaven in Capricorn. Okay, now let's take a look. Do we have the possibility to see transits here? Transits to this chart? No, then I'll do it by heart. Okay, so now we are having Jupiter just 2 degrees from the ascendant, which may mean why I talked about these things. Um, it's separating. We're after the Jupiter opposition, and we're applying. But Jupiter is going to conjunct the ascendant. Is probably going to conjunct the ascendant and separate from this conjunction by the eclipse by April 20. Aries is conjuncting the ascendant. Aries in Aries is conjuncting the ascendant. So discord, um, misrepresented the nations, okay, calling in. Um, there's just something going on perhaps in the internal affairs there. Maybe new nations want to join or misrepresented nations, and so on and so forth. Um, Mercury ingressed into the second house. That's Venus ruled with Venus in Libra. Here on a full moon in Libra, and the full moon in Libra um, is uh, um, is going to be separating from Jupiter, but now it's applying to this Jupiter. Now the moon is applying to this Venus Neptune. As I'm recording this episode, Pluto here in the 11th house of this chart. Okay, so touching the 11th house is ruled by Saturn, so Pluto, but that is not new because Saturn is also ruling Capricorn and Pluto's been there since 2008. Okay, so we have continuing the discussions, continuing the exposures about the inner structures or the hierarchical structures of the UN. Okay, what would make, just the structures of this organization and how does that affect decisions. I began this episode with discussing the P5 and the so perhaps with Pluto in Aquarius, there was going to be a desire to decentralize the Security Council. Okay? especially with Aries here. Yes, so calling to decentralize the Security Council, perhaps to democratize the Security Council, maybe alternating P5 members in the Security Council. Okay, have a bit more democratization, because what we have is a global authoritarian organization that was very advanced to its time, but we're in 2023, not 1945 anymore. Um, so they can be calling to decentralize the structure, to represent more nations. Uh, in the coming decade and a half, Pluto will be in its opposition. So there will be the Pluto opposition. That was going to be the first Pluto opposition for this um, body, for this chart. Neptune in Pisces is in the 12th house. That has been ongoing for a while. So 12th house for this chart is Neptune. So that can tell me there is secret activity or secret enmities by medical associated and also healers, because Neptune rules both the healers, the energy healers, the Reiki healers, the channeling healers, and the psychiatrists, the drug prescribing healers, um, and the charlatans. Okay, charlatans is not just about if you studied medicine or not in an academic institution. A charlatan can be also a pharmaceutical, okay, because Neptune rules drugs, so pharmaceutical. So we see that the hidden enmities here that are very affecting these international relations, okay, are Neptune ruled modernly and Jupiter ruled. So Jupiter here rules both Sagittarius, there's the ninth house, and the 12th house. So we have both conscious and unconscious factors establishing the partnerships of the United Nations. And the partnerships of the United Nations is not an internal affair. As I interpret the seventh house here, is actually the bodies that, oh, this is very special. The bodies that the United Nations, World Trade Organization, okay, think about, and here the type is going to be, think about the Vatican, okay, think about the Vatican Church, because Jupiter is also religious. So, of course, United Nations, they have um, partners, political partners. And Neptune, the presence of Neptune tells me that those political partners and the rulers of the 12th and the ninth, it tells me that those associates are religious, ninth, Orthodox, or also academic and international. So international, of course, this is something that the chart like this needs, right? But by merit of the ninth house being Jupiter ruled in the seventh house, it's not a bad thing. There is an inherent structural, almost algorithmic challenge that is that Jupiter also rules the 12th. And whereas the 12th is Pisces and is modernly ruled by Neptune, you can, you can bitch all you like, but you can't ignore the reality of what's happening in the world. And is not delineated by just Jupiter. Okay? Neptune rules drugs. Neptune rules pharmaceuticals, and Neptune is also ruling unity, Venus's connection. And the first decision that I ran into that Google has allowed to be accessible to me, okay, to us, to a person looking, opening Google search, just Google search. Okay, there are other websites. I'm gonna touch them later. I won't do it online because I have to open my DMs, and that can like piss off people who send me DMs. So I'm not gonna do it live. But there are other websites that are alternative to Google, as the history is being deleted. Okay, and anybody who's been doing Google searches that were available up until a certain point became unavailable. Um, but here, drugs, pharmaceuticals, and the sense of union. So, pharmaceuticals. Now, if you think about, for example, Doctors Without Borders, okay, that's an organization that can partner up with the WHO, okay, with the WHO, World Health Organization. Okay, there's nothing wrong about sending medical assistance and life-saving assistance to people in conflict areas, to women. Okay, the Venusian. Nothing wrong about having unanimous decisions to send medical aid to people in conflict regions. Hey, nothing wrong about that. The that okay, the ability to access the 12th here from the 7th gives us a structural challenge. And this is something we have, and this is why this is also a Jupiter hour. Okay, this is not a world conspiracy theory episode. It is tackling the structural challenges as we go about decentralization that are evident, and how do we tend to that, that the 12th house being a house of exile, the house of penitentiary, the house of hospitals, confinement, resorts, um, retreats, hotels, bedrooms, all of these significations are positively that governs diplomacy. Okay, there's an ability to be diplomatic. There's a good thing about here. There's ability to be diplomatic. There's an ability to access and connect those in exile. There's a potential to do that. That being said, there's also potential to connect with organized crime. Okay, Neptune with international spies. Okay, Neptune is also ruling spies. So Neptune rules your energy healer that miraculously took, I don't know, the cancer away from your grandmama, as well as the human trafficker that you didn't know, that is somehow dating your daughter. Okay, that can, or your sister. That is both this Neptune Venus, and this is a structural challenge. Okay, the up point is, yes, we can get to what's associated in the 12th through the 7th. Okay, this organization can partner up and get to those people that are inaccessible to get to. So people in exiles, refugees. Okay, it also entails that there is the danger, that there is the dark side. Okay, the dark side is actually a less good frame, as dark was used also in a political it's not about political correctness. It's just about understanding that the use of the word dark has religious, political connotations that are perhaps not in alignment with the truth. So the lesser benefic energy of this is basically that there's a potential for this organization to partner up with delusional, corrupt, um, charlatans, people that can be hidden from the eye. And there is effect on what's going on by spies, pharmaceuticals, doctors, okay, if even healers, okay. So hidden, and I'm careful to say occult because this is not denoting occult per se. It's denoting more the channelers or the spies or the consumers of perhaps or psychedelics or drugs or pharmaceuticals. Okay, so it's all that. Okay, the people who are pitting against each other. Okay, so your healer that tells you, oh, take my Shiba, it will heal all your ailments, or the pharmaceutical company that says this is Sheba. Now this white pill is Sheba, and wormwood, you call it. Okay, this is wormwood, and you take this white pill, and this is wormwood. Okay, not telling you how they processed it, how they this, how they that, what they added to it, beta blockers, and so on and so forth. And you're supposed to take that white pill. We talk about the blue pill and the red pill, but what about the white pill? So but then the alternative, the more benefic influence is that yes, we can get to those people that were not accessible to us. So this is a good chart to look at as Pluto delves into Aquarius and goes back and forth between hierarchical structure and decentralized structure, and the need to both tend to those people that are isolated, that are missing, that we don't even know about, that are not written in any country, the refugees, the people in exile, the people in prison, in hospitals, and so on and so forth. And the understanding that by the nature of Neptune, it entails and includes both the savior complex people, and people who are genuinely victims. Okay, people are genuinely disempowered. Yeah, they're not playing the victim. They're genuinely disempowered people, as well as people creating an illusion or a folly around something to get something. Yes, Pluto also rules playing the victim, which is a very sensitive statement because usually the people who play the victim are not ever charged, and the people who are genuinely the victims are not ever, like, hardly ever believed, um, with the exception of a Me Too here and there. So, so that's interesting. Um, and so when I looked at the first and probably only document that I found that was easily available about the unanimous decision in the UN, I found a decision of ceasefire. Okay, so ceasefire is very Venus oriented, um, and Jupiter oriented, right? Around pharmaceuticals, around vaccines. That in 2023, okay, the decision was in February 2021, that in 2023 we know had their own death tolls, that were not, that surprisingly enough are being admitted. Like can we take a, can we take a moment of silence to honor the fact that we are having countries like Germany paying money for the victims of Pfizer vaccines, and their families, because some did die. And when you die of something like a heart attack, it's very difficult to say this is the vaccine, right? Because it's the highest death toll, that in cancer. So, can we honor for a moment that this is being, like, that this is that we know about this? Can we honor for a moment that it's not hidden from us? That they didn't manage to hide it, that something here went, and this happens within 2 years. Okay, the records are in, for example, Israel, that was the first to give Pfizer vaccines, were closed for 70 years. So this is, when you see that there are closed records for 70 years about the decisions for security reasons, immediately you know that they're planning to do another, Yemen children kidnapping project, or medical experiments in non-consenting human beings, because there were people who consented to experiment the vaccine. Like, I spoke with them, so I know that they exist. Um, but the non-consenting. So these atrocities against humanities were exposed within 2 years' time. That's a point of optimism. It also a point denoting, and notice that Pluto is going to go from Capricorn Aquarius, Capricorn Aquarius, Capricorn Aquarius until 2024. So for the entire 2023, we still have this Capricorn Aquarius, Capricorn Aquarius. And so if that was spread out to the news within 2 years. Imagine what is hidden underneath. Like, if they were okay with letting that out, if they couldn't hide that and they are taking accountability, okay, Germany and other countries taking accountability, paying money for victims of Pfizer vaccines, imagine what they're hiding. Okay? Imagine what is hiding. As well as what can no longer be hidden. Imagine what when Pluto was in 29 degrees Capricorn versus when Pluto was only ingressing into Capricorn. Imagine what could no longer be hidden, no matter how much you erase Google, in 2022, 2023, that was that we were able to keep hidden, or that the nations were able to keep hidden in 2008 and before that. Okay? So there are certain plays that are no longer valid. There are certain political steps that are no longer valid for the time being when Pluto enters Aquarius. Pluto Aquarius is the Saturn ruled Pluto that does take accountability, but also it does try to mass control people. Okay. Um, what else is here? Yeah, so this is a very interesting chart. Um, in terms of Saturn, so Saturn here is in Cancer. When Saturn was in Aquarius, it was more the Saturn opposition with the end of Aquarius. Um, Now, when Saturn is in in Pisces, ah, it will be approaching the trine. So I'm not expecting a Saturn related drama in here. I'm more expecting structural changes because of the nearness of Mars, the ruler of the ascendant, and the ruler of where Rahu is, to Saturn. So there are going to be perhaps new nation states, change in the nation states, but the Pluto in Aquarius that is Saturn ruled is going to call for neutralization of the P5. Saturn in Pisces right now, regulations over water and all those, treaties, but also over medicine. I know in the astrological community there's this fear that it's like, oh, they're going to try to regulate us, let's regulate ourselves instead. Um, I don't think that trying to create a regulated channel, a regulated non-dualist group is a good solution. I think it's a good joke for cult-like sciences. Like, we don't have to become a cult by ourselves. And we need to use magic, right? We need to use magic in the right way to liberate, to have liberation. But with Saturn, for the time being of Saturn in Pisces, perhaps if it's an astrology, then perhaps doing electional astrology, perhaps doing the astrology of timing, um, uh, or yeah, especially electional astrology, or because Saturn is structure, then maybe astrology, like I'm doing astrology of this structural body, and the changes in the structural body that are to do with Neptune. Neptune is right now on my ascendant. Okay, I don't think you can create a regulation of Saturn of Neptune-like themes. What you can do actually lies in the next sign and the previous sign. So the previous sign is the sign of decentralization and open sourcing to deal with privacy issues, Neptune. And the next sign is radical acceptance of diverse identities, is Aries. Um, and have a rationale that understand, if you want you to count me in your agenda, I need to count you in my agenda. So if you don't count for me in your agenda, you're creating an enemy, and Aries is where might is right. Okay, that's the danger with Aries. The might is right, because because it is a Mars ruled sign. So it can assert itself. It's ruling the mind, so it's going to assert itself and its identity. But if it's being oppressed, then it has quite some potent explosive power that is to destroy, and that's it. You just destroy, that's it. Okay, and then you forget about it because you just want to be. So ascendant in Aries here actually means this organization has the ability to start things, to change, to transform. Um, and I know transform is more associated with Scorpio, but here it's actually not necessarily a. It's like there is a crisis, we respond to this crisis, we move on. There's a new identity, we look at ourselves in new eyes. So there's actually a surprising lot of good that I see in this chart. Okay, and the notion that this Neptune plays both the role of the Reiki healer, the testimonial of a woman refugee that we saw in the UN Security Council. We saw these exciting testimonials. So this the power of the people that did not that were disempowered the most, and the potential for you know drug related, pharmaceutical or not, unions or organizations that are undercover to affect unanimous decisions, literally. Okay, Neptune, Venus is an agreement. Like Venus Libra on a mundane level is unanimous decision. This is why I wanted to do this episode. Okay, now Venus is in Taurus, but we are heading to a full moon in Libra, which is very political, and Ketu is going to be there. So unanimous decisions, certain unanimous decisions can no longer hold. If I take that into account, there's certain agreements that can no longer hold. Um, Neptune Venus is unanimous decisions relating to drugs, relating to medication. Okay, specifically drug related medication. Okay, so this is a vaccine, and this is assistance to bring in drugs. Okay, it can also bring in life saving drugs. Okay, the vaccine was considered by the white public a life saving drug. Okay, people did not, the large population of doctors that were trained doctors that went to this profession in order to do good did not believe that this is a bad thing, and those that asked questions were removed from the system. So imagine if this is exposed within 2 years time, so it's almost live, then imagine what's there underneath. Okay, and we're gonna have a year up until 2024 to pick and sort, to sift and sort what's there underneath. Okay, now Neptune is also if you think about money laundering, because Neptune is hidden. Okay, it's still sextile in Pluto, so Neptune, hidden wealth, okay, hidden wealth, playing decisions here. Um, of course, Neptune rules the oceans, so the ability to travel far away is very much supported. Okay, so there's a lot of good here, and there are also things to address. Not from a this is a conspiracy episode point of view, but this is an algorithm that inherently contains just the options that allow to do good, also allow by their Piscean, Neptunian, and Jupiterian nature to do harm. And that's an inherent challenge with anything Neptune profession like. So it's oceanography, marine studies, medical profession, healers, psychiatrists, spies, and even artists. Okay, what is promoted by art? What is promoted by art? Think about the protocols of the Zion, whatnot. Okay, or caricatures and satires that portrayed the Jews as these wealthy bank owners that. And that was not true to all Jews. Okay, it was true to a lot of Jews, but it was not true to all Jews. So that what is this power? What is this power of these arts? Because Neptune is the art. It can be a beautiful painting. What is the message there? And we don't want to regulate. We cannot regulate art. Okay, this is another Neptune thing. We cannot really regulate art. Um, what can we do? Okay, we can create. We can turn. You cannot. And again, this light and dark is not the best metaphor, but it's like you cannot turn off the darkness, but you can turn on a light. And that's basically what you can do with this Pluto associated Neptune. Okay, this Pluto sextile Neptune. You can turn on a light, and turning on a light is important. So this marks this episode, which is on the verge of the evening of Passover for people who celebrate Passover. I don't know exactly when is Easter, so why not take a look at when is Easter this year? I know it is Ramadan now, so April 9 is Easter. Oh, so just before Easter, um, and so it is a time, we had the new moon in Aries, marking the beginning of the spring, the astrological new year, new beginnings. This is a time of um, freedom. So, in this context, freedom of nations, freedom of people, freedom of, with Aries in Aries, freedom of the people who are least represented, um, and have them have this freedom as well. So with the blessing of freedom, so Chag Chirut Sameach, so happy freedom holiday. I bless you and see you in my next episode. Bye bye.